we'll go ahead and post this later on the GRiT page. So everyone who is here, welcome. I'm super excited about this. We've got a couple of our ambassadors here. They're going to show you some pictures of themselves riding bikes and talk about their journey as mountain bikers and answer any questions that you have afterwards. The beginning is a little bit interactive. I'm going to talk just for a couple of minutes. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me just a second. And moving things around, present. All right, so give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. All right, sweet, thank you. All right, so GRiT. GRiT is it's kind of a weird acronym. It stands for Girls Riding Together. And it's just really all about recruiting and retaining female identifying athletes and coaches. It can be easy to forget about the coaches piece, but it's really important that we reach out to and make sure that everyone feels comfortable and welcome, and that we be as inclusive as possible. So in the comments field in the chat, go ahead and type a number. Tell me what percentage of student athletes do you think in the state of Minnesota identify as female? All right, so I see 18, I see 20. All right, go ahead and throw a number in there if you want to guess. All right, so right here, this is our these are our statistics for the last several years. As you can see, in 2012, we were at 17.8. 2020, which is the last year we have numbers for, we obviously don't have numbers for this year yet, we're at 17.9. And it never really varied much from that over the years. NICA has a goal of reaching 33% for both riders and coaches by 2023. So we've got 2 years to nearly double our female participation in the state. And that's a huge goal, but I think we can do it. And with the help of the ambassadors, we've actually done quite a bit already in this last year to work towards that endeavor. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Elizabeth first. She's going to tell us about her awesome mountain biking experience.
Hi, everybody. As Katrina said, my name is Elizabeth Yray. I'm from Hudson, Wisconsin, and I raced for the Hudson team, which is part of the St. Croix composite team. Along with mountain biking, I also am a sprinter for track at Hudson High School, and I'm going to be a senior at Hudson High. There was never really one defining moment where I got into biking. My dad is a road biker, so I grew up around bikes. But it wasn't too big of a part of like my life specifically. It was more like cheering on my dad as he did his like big crazy rides, and I would just like watch him from the side. But like nonetheless, biking like as a sport just wasn't too foreign to me. Every year, my parents and I went to the cities to watch the Nature Valley Grand Prix, which were road races. Katrina, you can flip the slide. And between the men's and the women's race, there was always a kids race, and that was it was just 1 mile, and it was on the street, and all I ever got from it was like a participation trophy, but I just had a blast with it. I just thought it was so fun. Like if you would have seen me, you would have thought it was so much more than what it was. And like it wasn't that much, but it was just my first like experiences of racing. And I guess it was the first signs of me just being in love with racing. So I got a mountain bike for my 9th birthday.
What?
And that bike never saw the dirt for quite a while. I honestly don't think I knew mountain biking was even a thing. Like I didn't really know what it was. I might have heard of it. I just didn't know what it was. So I didn't really think of joining a team. And I didn't even know if there was a team because like my friends were on soccer teams, my friends were on hockey teams. I didn't think I knew anyone on the bike team. But one night before 6th grade, my parents and I were at the YMCA, and we saw our friends Chad and Kathy McDonald, and they have a son who's my age, and they were sitting at a table in the spin room. And so we went and said hi to them to see what they were doing, and they told us that it was sign up night for the mountain bike team and that they were the head coaches, and we had no idea. And they were like, we were just talking with them. They were like, oh, Elizabeth would love this. You should totally try it out. And I didn't really know what it was or like what I was going to get myself into. But I was like, hey, I like bikes. I like riding my bike down the street. So like, I'll try it. Practices didn't start for a couple weeks, but they gave us some information about a girls' ride. It was a Crank Sisters ride at Carver Lake. And honestly, I'm pretty sure what convinced me to go is that I heard that they were going to be filming it for the news. Like, I didn't care about the mountain biking. I was like, okay, I want to be on the news. I never did get on the news, but that was my first mountain bike ride. I made the bad decision of going with the fast route because I thought I could keep up, and I couldn't really. I crashed a couple times trying to keep up, but regardless, I did have a lot of fun because I ended up going to practices, which started a couple weeks later, and I even raced my first kids comp race in the Minnesota Mountain Bike Series at Whitetail, and I did do a few more races that summer. At this point, 6th graders could not race NICA, so my season ended pretty quickly. But I loved it enough, I was ready for the next year. So in 7th grade, I bumped up to the citizen category in the Minnesota Mountain Bike Series, and I raced it. And I also raced my first NICA races, and I even got a couple podiums, which I didn't expect. The next summer, which was before 8th grade, our team was in a couple parades, the Booster Days one in Hudson, and then the 4th of July one in River Falls. And I thought they were so much fun. I didn't have that many skills yet. Like, I was still new, but I just thought it was so fun to just show off what I could do. This picture on the bottom left to me is doing a little jump, and I just had so much fun with it. And I was like, this is so fun. NICA that year went even better. I got a couple more podiums, and I was just doing better. And the bike team finally started to feel like home. And I started bringing friends and family to races, like on the bottom right, just because it was something I was beginning to become proud of. At the end of the year awards, the top 5 people got awards, and I came in 6th overall by just 1 point. And at the time, that really stung, but like, I had so much fun, and it was way better than I ever expected. And it just even motivated me even more for freshman year. So I went to NICA camp the summer before freshman year, and we also had a team camp up in Cuyuna. And that freshman season, that's just something I could go on for hours about. Like, my races, so they were long enough where I had to start training for them, and it clearly paid off. I podiumed at all but one race, and I got 4th for the season overall. But when looking back on that year, that's definitely not what I remember most. I just remember we went all out and just had fun. Looking back on it, I realized we probably didn't have that much social awareness, and we probably like annoyed everyone in the entire league. But those couple months are something I'll remember forever, so I'll just forget about the annoying part. Our team had signs, as you can see. Like, we wrote names on our stomachs. There was a mask with my face on it that got passed around. We just did so much, like, we had so many shenanigans. There's just hundreds of stories, but that's just where I realized how special the biking community was. Like, everyone cheered for everyone, no matter what team they were from, no matter if they were in first or if they were in last. I became friends with other riders from different teams. So it's just like the community was really good that year, and we were complete dorks that year, but I just knew it was where I belonged. Biking had become my thing, and all my friends knew about how much I loved it. And I even got a section in the freshman yearbook about biking. So that brings us to summer before sophomore year, which is where things somehow got even better. I know a lot of you probably know who Kate Courtney is, but if you don't, she is a pro mountain bike racer. She raced NICA when she was in high school in California, and she went on to win the world championship race when she was 23, and that was in 2018. And she's just my absolute idol. Like, I love her so much. All my friends know how much I love her because I talk about her all the time. Like, I look up to this woman so much, and she's just great. And I'm close with my head coach's son, as I mentioned earlier, and they invited me to come with them to the world championship that next summer to watch. And it was all the way in Quebec, and we were driving up their camper, which was over a 20-hour drive. But considering most UCI races aren't even in North America, and the world championship race was in Quebec, I was like, okay, I have to go. Kate's going to be there. I could see her. That would be pretty cool. So I went, and watching those people race, it was just life-changing. Like, seeing they were the best of the best, the thing I love the most. It was just so cool to watch them race, to see like what could happen if you work really hard. But the thing I remember most from that trip was meeting Kate, as you can see on the bottom. She crashed that race. She had a pretty nasty crash. So I was kind of worried she wouldn't want to talk. Like, I was worried she'd be mean, or not mean, but I was worried she wouldn't be like completely friendly. but I went up to her anyway, and she was like way more nice than I expected. She talked to me for a long time. She gave me some motivation, and she said some things to me that I'll never forget. And I know that it seems silly because I only talked to her for like 10 minutes one time in my life, but she taught me so much that summer. Before this point, I mean, I've been fairly lucky with my experience in biking. My best friend growing up was a boy, so I was always comfortable around boys. Like I never was too intimidated, but some part of me was always trying too hard to fit in at biking. And so I kind of just shut the girly side out of me when it came to biking. But Kate, she wasn't that way at all. Right before I met her, she partnered with Contraband and came out with the sparkle bracelet, which I'm actually wearing right now. And the whole point of it, the whole message was like, you can be girly, you can like sparkles, but you can still be like really good on the bike. Like you can still do great things even if you're girly. And so after meeting her and everything that summer, I just really looked up to her. And so I tried to take on that mindset and let myself do that. And that next NICA season was so amazing. Along with all my accomplishments at races, I just had so much more fun. The younger girls on our team introduced our team mascot to the league, Bertha, which is that skull on the bottom right, and which I'm pretty sure if you've been to the races, you've seen before, because I'm pretty sure it even made an appearance at the starting line of the race. It was all over. The middle school girls, they just loved it a lot. I think if you probably saw it, you probably thought we were some sort of cult because it was just so weird the way they rallied around it. But I mean, they loved it. Like they had so much fun with it, and it really just like again made a sense of community for the team. And so I learned to love it also. Other things that season, I became better friends with my competitors, and I even started to like go for rides with them outside of races, which is something that I don't think happens in most other sports. I let my girliness out that year, and to my surprise, the boys even embraced it. And I honestly think I got even closer to the boys just because I was being myself finally. As you can see on the top right, we got some boys in tutus, and I don't have a picture of it, but some of the boys even let me put pink and green glitter, which is our team colors. I even got to put that on their faces during the races, and so they were good sports about it. The bottom left, that picture there, that is me winning the JV3 state race in Mankato. And as you can see, I am just on top of the world. Like that was such a great moment. But what made me on top of the world that day, it was winning, but it wasn't all winning. Is what you don't see is behind the camera. It was my friends, my coaches, my parents, and they were all just cheering at the top of their lungs. And I stayed at the finish line for almost an hour after my finish, congratulating everyone else, giving everybody hugs. Which brings me to another thing, which I think is so special about girls in mountain biking. At the awards, we always give hugs, as you can see in the bottom middle. And no one's ever denied a hug. No one's ever like seemed like it was out of place or anything. And I think that's just something that shows how special the biking community is, because we all just are so close. And I think it's something that not many other sports have. It really is a girl thing that I feel so lucky to have experienced. And I think it's something that I would have never gotten to know if I would have just tried to fit in with the boys. So if you're following the timeline, you realize that brings us right up to 2020. And right when I was so confident and just loving the community, everything was going great for me. COVID took that away from me for a season. I'm so thankful that we got to race even last year in a time trial format, because that's something that not a lot of other sports got. But still, it was really sad not seeing my competitors and my friends from other teams. But I did make the best of my first varsity season and had fun with the people I did see. That confidence that I had from last season helped me become closer to the boys on my team. And things that would have freaked me out before, like hanging out with 6 boys, as you can see on the top left, and like doing fat bike races with boys, as you can see on the top right, those things didn't freak me out anymore. I just had fun. Those boys got me out of my comfort zone on my bike, like me jumping on the bottom left. And I think that's something that would have never happened if I hadn't gone out of my comfort zone off the bike. This past year, I also had my first year as a GRiT ambassador, and I am really thankful for this experience because I've said, everything in my experience in biking has just gone so great. Like I've had a great community, and I just want everyone else to have that. I want to do everything I can to make sure other people have as great of an experience as I am. So this year I'm doing all the races I can do, just trying to enjoy my last year in NICA as much as possible. I'm super excited that side-by-side racing is back like normal, and I'm sure I'll see some of you around. And thank you everyone for listening.
Sorry, trying to find my unmute button. Thanks, Elizabeth. That was awesome. I think everyone here is just insanely jealous that you got to meet Kate Courtney.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And everything about your story is awesome. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing.
Thank you.
All right. And then we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Sandy Fish. She's going to tell us about her story.
Hi, my name is Sandy. I'm going to be a sophomore at Roz, and I'm on the Roseville composite team, so I go to Roseville. Next slide. I grew up around bikes in general. I remember my dad doing quite a bit of races, and one of the races he did in 2011 was the St. Croix Valley Woolly or whatever. And so I ended up actually going to that one, and there was a kids comp that year. And so I had, for this kids comp, learned to ride without training wheels. And I won the kids comp, and they had extra medals that year since there weren't that many women. So I actually have one of the medals for the older woman categories. And that was just a really good introduction to riding. I really fell in love with the thing, probably because I got candy afterwards, but I began doing fat bike races in 2016 or 2017, as well as some Buck Hill races, which they were just super fun to do. I started off doing the kids comp at Buck Hill, which was like a race around the tree, if I remember correctly. And I did the actual races up the hill and stuff. And then in the summer of 7th grade, so after 6th grade, my mom found out about the team, and so she signed me up. And so I was like, you know what, this will be fun. And at the time we were with Mounds View, and so the team was larger. And so I was really lucky. I got on the team, and there was like other girls, other people to talk to and kind of get to know. And besides that, I also rode the Minnesota Summer Series doing kids comp, and rode in this program called Little Bellas, which is another thing to get more girls on bikes, which I feel helped me as a racer a lot more. Next slide, there. 2018, the team was still with Mounds View, and so there was a few girls when I joined, and there was people who at races I recognized, as I knew these kids from doing other programs. And if I remember correctly, I finished my first season of NICA in 5th place. And the races I just loved. All, like, there was the booths this year, just getting to see people, having the tents up, racing with those. It was a lot of fun. In 2019, it was my last year being able to do Little Bellas, and so that was a bit sad, but I was able to do the Fat Bike Birthday, which you had to be 13 or 14 to register to do, and it was on March 9th, which is my birthday. So the first time I was able to race it was also my birthday, which was really nice. And I did Citizen for the summer series, and I didn't have a good series for race rise for the school. However, my dad and I made a bet at Mankato. I had been predicted to finish around 11th place, and he said that if I could get top 5, he would convince me to get the dog I'd been wanting for 8 years. And so I ended up in 4th place. And so my dog, whose name is Cadence, is probably downstairs right now. He was barking earlier, if that was picked up at all. 2020 was different for sure. Even without COVID, though COVID was the cause of a lot of things, I did the ride program instead of Little Bellas. And the summer series, which is probably my favorite race series to do, ended up getting canceled. Roseville also separated from Mounds View due to COVID and the amount of people, which made me the only girl on the team. That was a bit different for sure. We started off with a smaller team, but slowly more people started to join. And despite being the only girl the whole year, I got to know the other members better because it was a smaller team, so we were actually pretty close. And it was definitely a lot of fun. I also became a GRiT ambassador, which has been a ton of fun. Mine's a lot shorter, but
that's okay. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy. I love how you have that juxtaposition of being on a big team with other girls and then being split, going to the smaller team, being the only girl. And that can be difficult. That can definitely be difficult. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions or comments that for either of our ambassadors? If you do, you could just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, or you can type it in the chat room as well. So both of you said that you, someone said, tell the salamander story of the pick.
Okay, so as few of you might have noticed on the slide from last year, there was a picture of a salamander. And so one of the rides we did was at like Dreamcatcher Park or whatnot. And it got dark. So we had lights, thankfully. We had lights last year, but we were on our way up the last gravel hill and there was something on the ground. We're like, wait a minute, that's an animal. And so we had, I think everyone who was at the ride got to see the salamander as the end of the ride. And that was just a really fun moment. Sunfish and Lake Elmo.
Awesome. Very cool. So what would be your best piece of advice for girls out there who also find themselves in your position where they're the only girl on the team or maybe the only one of a couple? What do you think is the best thing for them to do?
I think if you're one of a couple, then definitely try and make friends with the other girls, because it's something that's a lot easier to connect with, but also don't feel afraid to talk to the guys because they're not gonna bite. You have biking in common, you can communicate.
I for sure agree with that. I think a big thing with my story was just like trying to talk to the boys. And I think like you're scared, like I get it, but like the boys aren't going to think you're weird for coming up to them. Like the boys on my team, they were so like welcoming and they rode with me all the time. And they didn't like, I was worried that I was going to be slower than them, but they waited for me or I just kept up with them. And it was just, it wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have just talked to them. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it can be really intimidating. I mean, even as an adult, I have to admit that it can still be intimidating to walk up to a group of men to ride with them. But, you know, they usually don't care. Like they're usually they're always so excited just to have another person riding. So, you know, got to try to set that aside and just go for it. Somebody asked a question, how do you see biking in your life after NICA? So after you graduate, what do you think you're going to do with biking?
I'm not really sure I'm going to end up after NICA, like me living wise, but I'm going to for sure try to do the Minnesota series as long as I can. And if I don't end up in the Minnesota area, I'll for sure do whatever races I can find around there. Just like nothing too competitive, I don't think, just things to like keep the passion alive. I haven't really thought about biking in college. I've looked into a few teams. But I'm not really sure. Just for sure doing races. I'm for sure not quitting racing after high school.
I agree. I have a few colleges that I'd really like to go to, and I know one of them's near a bike shop. So I think it'd be really cool to just try and start a team. And even then, I just really want to continue races and just being in the community.
I like how you said try to start a team. I think that it would be really awesome if the two of you were coaches, if you volunteered as coaches, because having female coaches, especially younger female coaches that the girls can connect with, is huge. It's very, very empowering, kind of like your connection with Kate Courtney, getting to meet her. I think that having younger female coaches goes a long way with recruiting more girls on the teams. So that would be awesome if you guys did that. Somebody asked, how much do you know about fixing bikes and is it intimidating?
I don't really know a lot. When something goes wrong with my bike, I either just give it to my friend on the team or my dad or something and have them fix it, which I'm not really, I mean, when something goes wrong and I don't really know what to do with it, the boys, like, I'm kind of worried they'll think I'm dumb, but they honestly don't. They just, I mean, the only thing they want to do is get it fixed so we can keep riding. So it doesn't really intimidate me because
I agree. My dad does a lot of the bike repairs because I have a habit of apparently bottoming out tires to the point where like it's a flat and it can't be fixed. Because that happened at one of the races earlier this year, for example. So I have like generic knowledge on it, but it's something that I feel like would almost be fun to kind of learn more. But yeah, mechanicals, I generally bug my dad about it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Sandy. Like I have a general knowledge on, like if something goes wrong on the trail, I'll probably be able to get myself fixed if it's something that's fixable. But
Yeah, I've taken some classes at REI, and I know that some other bike shops in town in the Twin Cities area, they offer classes, and some of them are female specific. So I know I've got some of those on my list that I want to do, especially after pandemic is over. So that might be something for you guys to look into. I mean, I'm with you. I've got some basic knowledge. But the more you know your bike, the more you, I don't know, it's for some reason it increases the fun of riding. So, but that can be a little intimidating. Yeah. All right. Any last minute questions or anything else that you want to throw out there? Actually, I know what I want to hear. What are your goals for this season?
I think my goal for the season, because it's like I'm a senior this year and it's gonna be my last year. I just think my goal is to have a season that I'm gonna like look back on and have a lot of fun with. Like I talked about freshman year, that's something I could literally go on and on like all night about it. And I want next year to for sure be a season that's like that. Like I know so many more people now, and there's gonna be a lot of people that I know there, and I just want to make memories this season.
I agree. Just try and have fun and just enjoy the sport. Because I mean, it's
Awesome.
biking. It's fun. We should treat it as fun, you know?
Yeah. And it can be really easy to forget about that, right? Like, especially when you're just training hard to race and racing can kind of take over and we forget to have fun too. So awesome. Oh, any fun bike trips on your horizons?
Yeah. At the beginning of July, I'm leaving for Colorado to race at nationals. And I've never ridden my bike in Colorado, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. And then Chad and Kathy McDonald's, I talked about earlier, they're my head coaches, and their family's taking a trip to New Mexico to bike. And so we're kind of just like meeting them. And my parents are going to drop me off, and I'm going to bike in New Mexico for a couple weeks too.
Awesome.
Mine are a lot more in the state. I went on one to Arkansas not that long ago, but for this summer, I did like a ride with my friend earlier today, and that was a lot of fun. So I'd like to do more stuff like that and just kind of explore.
Did you go to
for sure.
Bentonville in Arkansas?
Yep.
Awesome. That's on my bucket list. Where are nationals exactly in Colorado?
They're in Winter Park.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for coming and visiting and listening. And especially thank you, Sandy and Elizabeth, for sharing your stories and hopefully encouraging some more girls to get on bikes. And if anybody wants to share the link for this, we will have it posted on the recording posted on our GRiT web page within the next couple of days. So if you have any girls that are curious about the league and what racing is like, you can always send that link to them once we get it up and then they can watch it. So thanks again, everybody, and have a good night.